Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Becoming Awake and the Calm Mom Alliance. I'm Rita Desnoyers-Garcia, and it is my privilege to be talking to someone today who really has had her own journey. And I'm excited because, as you know, I work with stressed out professional moms, and one of the biggest stresses they have is parenting. And parenting just on its own can be stressful, but when you add into their special challenges with your child, it really just brings the heat up and it makes it really, it can be really hard. So I'm really excited to have my friend Aimee Kaufman. She struggled to deal with the often challenging effects of her daughter's ADHD. And it became for her a journey of compassion, seeking out the proper medical attention, researching, and learning to navigate the educational system. Oy. Her sincere
Mhm.
hope is that her book, No One Else I'd Rather Be, will help other families. I'm reading this, other families struggling to love and care for their children with disabilities. So, without further ado, Aimee, thank you so much for coming to talk to me today. I'm sure your message is going to help a lot of moms.
Well, thank you for asking me to be here. Excuse my dog.
No worries. We all have the
My
challenges
husband's
in the
home and
background.
he's supposed to take the dog. Oh, well. So, do you want me to just start talking about the
Yeah, just
book
start
or?
talking like, how did this all start? What were
Okay,
your
so
in the beginning? What were your expectations? What was the journey?
so my daughter, okay, Louie, stop. Louie, stop barking.
I
See
don't
if
think
that
we can even
helps.
hear it. It's all right.
Um, when my daughter Sam, my younger daughter, I have an older daughter who I expected when I had my second daughter, they may be similar. Totally the opposite. My older daughter, studious, everything she did had to be right. And my younger daughter, from the very beginning, she used to argue with us. And when she could start talking, I hate you. And my older daughter, she would knock the books out of her hand because she was so studious. But she would always say to me and my daughter and my husband, I don't know why I did that. So I started researching ADD. Back then, that's what we called it, ADHD, ADD. And I asked doctors and therapists and teachers for 10 years. Do you think she has ADHD? Do you think she has ADD? No, we think it's sibling rivalry, it's depression, it's this, that, or the other thing. But I always knew when she would say to me, I don't know why I did that, Mom, that it was something she couldn't control. And by the time she was in fifth grade, I got a call from her teacher. And her teacher said, Listen, are you sure Sam doesn't have ADD? And I said, As sure as the doctors and therapists and people who have told me no. And she said, I have a son who acts a lot like Sam. And she said, You may want to try to find somebody else to test her. And I don't remember who gave me the name of a doctor right here in Summit, not far from where I live. And she wrote a book about ADHD.
Oh, wow.
And I went to her, and Sam would go to her alone. I'd bring Sam, and she would see me and my husband. And after 2 weeks, she said to me, Okay, make an appointment and I'll let you know what I think. And my husband couldn't come with me back then. He's an attorney and he had meetings. And she walks in the room and she goes, Of course, Sam has ADD. And took 10 years. So first she put her on Adderall, but that made her lethargic and tired. And so right before Thanksgiving of that year, we switched her to Ritalin. And I used to take her shoe shopping at Marty's Shoes, which is a big warehouse. And she'd always find a pair of shoes. They didn't have her size. And she'd start crying, I want to buy them anyway. And I love these shoes. So before Thanksgiving, she needed new shoes. So I take her to Marty's Shoes. She finds a pair she likes. The lady comes back without them. She goes, that's okay, Mom. We'll go somewhere else. And if they don't have them, I'll pick something else out and walks out the store. So I knew the Ritalin worked. So we go to Thanksgiving that year. My father called me. I didn't tell anyone she was on medication.
Yeah.
And my cousin calls. She was great. Normally she doesn't want to eat what's served. She wants to watch television. She sat at the table, talked to everybody, ate what was served.
Oh.
And I knew that that was the problem. And so, look, she went up and down over the years for sure. When it would wear off, she wrote an essay in college, and I never realized that it's their stimulants, the medication, and she would crash after. And I didn't know anything about that, but she wrote an essay and it taught me. So when she graduated college and moved home, I knew to leave her alone, let her have a snack, go upstairs and come down when she's ready. And she would. And so, she was able to explain to me how she felt, and it helped a lot. But throughout her life, even after she was diagnosed, I was criticized for not being strict enough. I have a friend who told me I should yell at her and she should be scared of me. But I had a mother who had a big heart and never, there's four of us in my family. She didn't criticize us. Let us do what we thought was right and unconditional love. And I always thought that's how I would raise my kids. And with Sam, she would go off and scream and yell, and I would hug her and tell her, we're going to find out why you're doing this. And many years later, she wrote in my Mother's Day card, thank you for always loving me.
Mm,
And I knew I did right by her. And
yeah.
today, she's actually 39 years old, and my older daughter's 41. And the two of them, after Dana went to law school and Sam graduated college, and when Dana graduated law school, Sam had looked at an apartment in the city thinking her roommate from college would live with her. Turns out the parents didn't know. They said no. So my kids were away visiting friends in DC, and I get a phone call. Dana and I want to live together.
Wow.
And after you read the book, you'll see they used to fight and argue, and Dana wrote in her diary, I don't wish Sam would die. I just wish she was never born. She drove Dana crazy.
Right.
But then they lived together for 5 or 6 years. And today we have a text, the three of us, Dana, Sam, and myself. And every day, pictures. And,
Hmm.
my older daughter, Dana, has a baby and he's 14 months old. So we get pictures. And at the moment, my daughter Sam is pregnant. She's married a
Wow.
wonderful guy who gets her. He came to tell us that he wants to marry her. And my husband looks at him and goes, are you sure?
Right.
And we laughed, and he gets her. And
Yeah.
so even if she gets upset, he's terrific. And yeah, so I'm going to have another grandchild.
Wow.
But while during those 10 years, I used to go to the gym and do yoga and meditation, and I continued to work part-time. I'm an accountant, and I just needed to get out. And with when Sam was born, I actually hired a nanny that didn't work out well in the beginning. And for 2 years, I ended up having her. And I always said, I want my Mary Poppins, right?
Mm.
And I get a phone call from the preschool that there's a girl here from England who had a, who had a job lined up that fell through, and she's looking for a job. Are you interested? And I said yes, because I told them the
Yeah.
first night didn't work out. She walks in with her English accent. Are you the two little girls your mommy told me about? And take me
Oh,
to your room. And she's now a part of our family. She and her
wow.
cousin. She was staying with her cousin while she was looking for a job. And the two of them, they're just part of our family. They came to visit this past summer, and it's great. It's great. And I couldn't have written the book if we weren't as close that we are today, because the beginning of the book is pretty bad. And even my husband and my mother-in-law is a special ed teacher. So you would think that she would have compassion for my daughter. Nope. She took us to Disneyland, Disney World in Florida. And Sam would not get on the elevator because you could see out, it's glass. So I said, okay, you know what? We'll go to the front desk and we'll get a room on the first floor. And my mother-in-law was like, oh, complained, and
Mm.
some wouldn't come eat dinner with us. But luckily, they had this lollipop lounge that we sent her to. But, you know, later on, when Sam was in college, my mother-in-law called me and said Sam was in Barcelona for a semester in her junior year. And my mother-in-law said, I'm going to go visit Sam with a friend. And I was shocked. She
Yeah.
came back and she said to me, I finally realized Sam is who she is, and I'll love her for who she is. And,
Wow.
I couldn't have put her in the book in the beginning if she didn't also turn out well.
Right. Yeah.
And Barry, also my husband, he used to yell at her and scream at her. She wouldn't get ready for bed. And I stopped him from running after her one day and said, does this help, Barry? Like, is this helping her get better? And he said no. And when she went to college, she almost failed out first semester. She got a 1.9.
Mm.
And I wrote up a contract. I don't know who told me to do that. And Barry said to her, Sam, I have confidence in you. I know you can do this. She wouldn't
Wow.
take her medication. She wouldn't go for extra help. And she didn't want to feel different. Well, once she started taking the medication, she realized a lot of her friends were on medication. And
Yeah.
they loved that she got extra help. So if she got notes, they could use the notes also.
Wow.
And it turned out, she said to me one day, I didn't try harder to do well in college for me. I did it for you and Dad because I knew
Wow.
that, and she ended up, I think the last year, she was on the dean's list.
Wow.
And she ended up getting a wonderful job. And, again, I couldn't have written it if she wasn't so successful today and we weren't so close.
Right.
But I ended up getting criticized by a therapist who told me, don't use ADHD as an excuse. I think you created the monster. And
Wow.
that was the beginning of my book, is a letter I had written to her, excerpts from this letter.
Wow.
That how do you say that to somebody when ADHD is real,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
real.
It's a real thing.
Well,
That's
when
sounds
I read about it, I read that there's something in the front of your brain that's not developed yet.
yeah.
And so how do you say that to me? And
Yeah.
a friend, I should yell at her and scream at her and she should be afraid of me. No, that's not me, because I tried to emulate my mother. And
Yeah.
it worked.
And
And
it
it
worked.
worked. It really,
Yeah. It
you know,
reminds me of the old days when they would say that kids with autism or schizophrenia was because they had a refrigerator mom.
a refrigerator mom.
Yeah, a mom who was really cold.
Cold.
And that's what caused. So it harkens back to like old myths about uh
Right. It's
neurological issues or disease.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And
Wow.
even last year in my Mother's Day card, thank you for letting me always be me.
Yeah.
And you know what? That unconditional love is
Yeah.
what she held on to. And
Yeah.
when I kept telling her we're going to find help, and, I would hug her and kiss her and lie in bed with her, it works.
Yeah.
It worked for me,
Yes.
you
Well,
know.
it reminds me of I just wrote a post this morning about suffering and the stories in our head. And I was just like, things are going to happen in your life, but the degree to which you suffer from them is based on oftentimes the story that's going on in your head.
Right.
Sounds like a lot of the people around you, the story in their head was, well, this kid just needs some stiff discipline. It's
Right.
obvious that she just rules the roost or whatever. And so they were coming at it from that angle. And you were coming at it from, no, it's obvious to me that she can't help herself. And we're going to
Can't,
find
right?
her
Hmm.
something or someone who can help her to have more control over her body and
Right.
her impulses. Two
Right.
very different stories that cause different perspectives and response.
Absolutely. And, Sam was in high school, and a very good friend of hers was in her class, and the teacher did not like Sam. She used to yell at her to sit down and be quiet and
Right.
whatever. Sam was homesick one day, and her friend called and said, "You're not going to believe this. The teacher yelled at you to sit down and stop talking, and you weren't even there."
Wow.
And it just shows that, and at the end of middle school, when Sam was going to high school, we met with four teachers, and three of the teachers, and they all had a copy of, there was a 504 plan.
Yeah.
Okay, and they all had copies of it, and they started complaining. She's talking out and she's not paying attention. And one teacher said, "She's great in my class." And I looked at all of them and said, "Don't you realize you're complaining about what she at her ADHD, and that where is she sitting? Oh, in the back with friends." I said, "Well, did you read it? She's supposed to sit up front next to you." Right? Like right there, so you could see her and she doesn't talk to her friends. And my mother-in-law, who came around by then, gave me a list of like 50 things you can do in your classroom to help children with ADHD. The one teacher who didn't complain about her took it. Everyone else,
Yeah.
we don't need this. We'll do this on our
Right.
own.
Right. Which is a story in your head. I don't need this extra help and this, I'm going to see it in a certain way. So
Right.
just what would you say? Because the the women that you're talking about are talking to right now in this interview are stressed out professional moms. So what would be if you had advice, if they had a child with some sort of difficulty or challenge,
Right.
what would be your advice to them?
So, I mean, I followed my heart and used unconditional love,
Yeah.
because if I knew finally that she had a disability. So no matter what the disability is, understanding it and loving your child no matter what. And if they can't control what they're saying, some of them, I think Sam probably had a little oppositional defiant disorder. And it's, if you think it's part of the disability, just love your kid and hope that you can figure things out with either medication or, therapy,
Hmm.
and just don't stop loving your child.
Yeah.
And look at how 39 years later, 38 years later, thank you for letting me be me. And when she was 22 or 23, thank you for always loving me. I mean, at that
Wow.
moment, I knew I did well by her.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't know until later
And
on, right? It's a
exactly.
long-term project, children.
Right. Because look, she had her ups and downs, and she would
Yes.
come down off the medication and act out. And that essay from college taught me
Yeah.
to just let her come down off the medication, eat something, and yeah, it was the first 10 years were so difficult.
I bet.
And, because everyone kept telling me, nope, nope, it's you. Nope, it's you. It's,
Wow.
and,
Wow.
for her to say, I don't know why I said that.
Yeah.
One day she said to me, F you, mom. I hope when you get in the car, you die,
Oh,
and that if you leave, I'm going to kill myself. And so I had to call the doctor and take her there to make sure.
great.
But
Yeah.
basically, she said to me again, I don't know why I said that. I don't want you to die. I love you. And so,
Yeah.
that always helped me get to where we are today.
Wow. Wow. What a story. Thank you for sharing it. And I wanted to ask you, what's the best way for people to learn more about the story and get your book?
Um, if they go onto my website, it's Aimee, AIMEE
Okay.
.com. But
Awesome.
if they put in no one else I'd rather be,
Yeah,
mm,
they can Google it. So they can Google the title of the book.
right.
I put
And
all of
and
your information in the description.
right. And it's
Someone
it's
else.
two words. They did it, and so
Yeah, no one else I'd
I
rather.
love the cover.
Oh,
Look
that's
at the
beautiful.
head.
Yeah,
Yeah, and She Writes Press was the one who created this.
I love that.
And it's I put that it was coming out at the end of January on my Facebook page.
Yeah.
I got 111 comments. We're gonna buy
Wow.
it, and
Wow.
it was, I said Barnes and Noble, Amazon,
Yeah.
not Simon and Schuster, and then there's others. Like I said,
Yeah.
my nanny in England. Did I tell you this? My nanny in England sent me a picture of the book. She was able to get it in English.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You're healing the whole community. This story is healing a whole community. So,
Yeah.
Aimee Kaufman, thank you so much for spending time with me today
Well,
and
thank
sharing
you
your
for having
story.
me.
I think it's going to help a lot of moms, families in general who have any sort
Right.
of challenge to stay in there, stay connected to their child,
Right.
maybe find the experts that it's not that it's you ignore the experts. It was you found the people that felt right to you in this situation and the ones that
Yes.
weren't helping. So I wanted to make that distinction. It's not like just ignore
Right.
everybody. It's wait, we need to rethink this because I'm seeing things. Parents,
Right.
kids, parents know
Right.
their kids.
Right. And
So,
if that fifth grade teacher never called me, I don't know where we would be today.
exactly.
And I was so thankful.
Yeah.
And, I went in and told her, and she was so thankful that she said something to me. We were pretty close, and it
Yeah.
worked out. It worked.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it.
All right. I can't wait to hear the comments on this interview.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks
Okay,
everybody for tuning in and we'll talk again. Thanks.
great.